Hi, Dr. Paul Haider here. Glad to see you again. You know, the more mysterious something is, the more we take it for granted that we know everything about it. Is that interesting? But that's not true. Absolutely not. So, I think it's very interesting that the ancient Vedic teacher, thousands of years ago, Nada Brahma, said the universe is a vibration. And this vibratory thing that is happening all the time. And scientists are just figuring this out now. And the two are coming together. And I find it very interesting that you're reading the Vedas and the Upanishads that they have a lot of science in them. They're absolutely amazing. How did these people know thousands of years ago about these things? And this vibratory field is the root of all spiritual expressions or religions that we have. And I find that interesting also. And this is what the great Buddhas, the priests, the yogis, the saints, and the shaman, and also the great seekers, and those who have been searching have been looking for themselves, and they find it eventually. Some call it Akasha, or some call it the Om or the Ah, and also some call it connected to the chakras that we have in our body also. And the seven chakras within our body, starting with the base chakra, moving on up to the crown chakra. Some call that the Indra's net also, and which is endless, and in the beginning and in the end. And some call it spears of light, and there's a billion different other names that are out there. And it's talked about in all the spiritual texts and all the religions in some way and shape and form. And there's a link between our inner world and the outer world that we experience every day, but we take it all for granted. We don't even think about it. Mahayana Buddhism, it talked about, in the third century, they talked about the cosmology of the whole cosmos and how everything was formed, and everything from these quarks on in subatomic particles, even smaller than quarks, on up to the multiverse itself. I think that is amazing. How did these people who were thousands of years ago figure that out? And they even understood that this extends out into multiple dimensions, and there's a collective spider web, just like the indigo children see, this spider web of energy which spreads out. And we're just starting to figure that out in science now. And it is connecting everything, and it's infinite. It does not stop no matter what. And in this holographic universe, where there's light is everything, it's just a small bit of the light contains a pattern of everything else. And it's not really like a hologram. I mean, if you cut up a hologram, you ever seen those things like on your credit card? You cut it up, you cut it up, you cut it up, and you project it. Eventually, the whole image is there, but it starts to degrade and gets, you can't really see it very well. But with light, it's always there. Everything is there, no matter how small the piece of it, how little photons are used, everything is in that one little thing. And and the Akashic record also talks about this as everything is part of everything. And Tesla went to see Swami Vivekananda, and he talked to him about this Akashic record. And maybe that is where Tesla got a lot of his ideas, through the Akashic record. You know, I know a particular person who works in the armed forces, and he has some way of connecting to the Akashic record. and he helps them in some way. Very interesting. I find it very interesting. And so this space, which is full of these energy webs, which goes out everywhere, is connected to everything. And it can't be disconnected in any way, shape, or form. And this is kind of like the yin and the yang of all things. And we have these fractals which are inside this web. And inside every fractal is like a little image. And that image contains everything within the whole web itself. So even if you break down this spider web into the smallest part, just like a hologram, everything is there. And so that means you or me are in the smallest part of this spider web of energy. Wow. And this has been studied by science now. This is not talking about metaphysics. This is studied by science, and also this is verified by the great sages of old, the Vedic sages. I think that's very interesting. And the fractals have been called, sometimes people call it like the fingerprints of God. And I think that's amazing. With consciousness becomes perfectly still. When we finally get rid of the chatter in our head, then we have the ability to get rid of the illusion that we're seeing, because we see layer upon layer of this vibrating energy that we have. But once we calm our mind down to a certain point, then we can start to see everything. And the Nada Brahma, the original Vedic teacher that I talked about, Nada is the universal sound. Brahma is the vibration or God. So it's all boils down to what a person would call the great creator. And I think that's very interesting. And it's kind of like having you and me. I know I do some drawing. Actually, I do some big paintings too. And, it comes from your heart. And that's exactly what's happening with this expansion of this web which goes on forever. It's coming from the creation of God's heart. And so this casket field or our casket record is arising out of a place of love. It's all these subatomic particles and everything. It's the total existence of everything all together. And it's all vibrating at a particular vibratory frequency for that particular thing to come into existence. And there was actually a very interesting thing. The Native Americans would say everything is spirit, is vibrating as one from the one true source. And so, wow. Again, that's verified from the great sages in Native American history. It happened over and over again that we see this creation if we still our minds long enough to be able to see that this is, there is something else going on down below it, which is the truth of everything. And, in this existence right now, what we see as light is only, and what we see of materialistic things is only 4% of everything. The rest of it is dark energy or dark matter. So we're looking at 96% of it, which we don't even have a clue about. And so how do we know everything? It's absolutely impossible because we only know less than 10%, actually less than 5%. So very, very interesting. So we have a lot to learn. And we're kind of dreaming the dream of the dreamer. There's no doubt about that. And once we go slower and slower with our mind, we find that there is nothing separate and that you are everything, that there is nothing separate from you. You are part of this holographic understanding, the part of the fractals, the part of everything. That when we have an iguana looking out at the universe, he's looking for you. And when you're looking with your own eyes, you're looking for with the eyes of God. So and when you're looking and seeing a little baby look out there, there is another set of eyes looking at itself. And so we are one. Everything is one. And now we find the Hadron Collider they have in Europe, 17 miles long, and it's a big loop, and they get these energy particles whipping around at almost the speed of light, and then they have them collide together, and they see what happens. And they found the Higgs boson particle, and they call this the God particle, because it actually proves that space is not empty. Space is filled with these spider webs of energy. And wow, we have another scientific proven idea that that this is all connected. There is nothing separate. And there have been studies showing that this vibration is always happening. There was actually a person back in history who did something called cymatics. And you could take some sand and put it on a table, and take a bow from a violin or something and scrape it on the table, and the sand starts to vibrate and turn into patterns. And depending on what frequency or the sound that you make with the bow, the patterns change. And that's really interesting. It'll turn into a pattern like a pattern on a tortoise shell, or turn into a pattern of a flower, all kinds of different things. But if you take and use electronic equipment, you can get a billion different patterns and hook that up and make different sounds and frequencies. But if you do one more thing, if you take that and hook it up to water, and you can get all kinds of frequencies and get different types of patterns. But if you put something that will thicken the water slightly, maybe cornstarch, or you could use, arrowroot or something like that, and it thickens up a little bit, and then add the vibration to it, or like music, the pattern starts to become three-dimensional and starts to stand up. Wow. Is that amazing or what? And they said, in the beginning there is the Word, and the Word became, life, and became everything. And what is a word but a vibration? And I think it's very interesting that these patterns that we have going on all over, all these vibrations, are creating this reality that we have now. This is hard for a lot of scientists to wrap their heads around. They actually won't even let it into their reality. And so it's very interesting, because we have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of scientific studies showing that spirituality, the spiritual connection, is real, that there is another dimension that we go to when we die. We have all these different studies, past lives, and over and over and over again, all this different stuff, near-death experiences, and it can all be accepted and taken into science, and we can understand this as being part of one. But if we disconnect ourselves from it, and we disconnect ourselves from nature, we disconnect ourselves from our spiritual understanding, which goes beyond science. Even Einstein understood this in a big way. He understood that there was such things as he couldn't understand or couldn't figure out. Even the speed of light. If you're traveling at, the light travels 18,000 miles per second, 186,000 miles per second, excuse me. And if you're traveling 185,000 miles per hour, that should only be 1,000 miles faster than you. Doesn't work. It's always traveling at 186,000 miles per second. It's just very interesting. So we have to understand that there is some kind of divine system going on here that we're part of all of it. And if we still our minds long enough, like with meditation, and that's what the sages of old, the great Vedic teachers, the seekers, the shaman, everybody, the yogis, and everybody, that's what they do. They go inward. We keep looking out there for the answer. You know, science is going out there for the answer, but actually, they found it a long time ago in here. A long, long time ago. The answer isn't here. We are all one. We're all one vibration. We are all one being. We are all one connection to that one vibration, that om, that ah, that wonderful sound which created the beginning. And it's coming from one particular place in the beginning of the beginning. So allow yourselves to wrap your head around that. And we don't have a choice in the whole matter. We're going to become enlightened, whether we like it or not. You know, there's actually studies done showing that every time we have a more bursts of sun rays coming off the sun, changes happen in society and mankind. And so that's over a few thousand years. They've been looking at these records and they find that they parallel each other. And we have more bursts of rays coming off the sun now than any other time in history. So and this actually has been proven scientifically that we're actually going to have that will influence that magnetic change will influence our minds. And not only that, the magnetic energy around us, which some people call our minds. So we will become enlightened, whether we like it or not. Some of us will go kicking and screaming, and others will accept it all and move in the right direction, and in a positive direction. And the those that are held back, eventually they'll get there also, but it's a lot faster just to let go and surrender. And let go and surrender is the name of the game. Have great peace inside. Have love inside. We can end all wars and we get rid of aggression. And we can end up getting rid of hatred. We can end up with peace, love, and compassion. And that's what it's really all about. Finding that great peace, love, and compassion deep down inside. If you'd like to get a hold of me, feel free to click on Show More, and down below is all my contact information, whether it's about spirituality or whether it's about herbalism or about foods. Let me know. All my consultations are free, and my phone number and email and everything is down there. I'd love to talk with you, and remember, I go to bed by 8 p.m. so Eastern Standard Time, so call me early. And I'd love to talk to you and help you in any way, shape, or form. And sometimes it's better with email because sometimes I have to send you a bunch of information, and then that way you can look at it and read it over and over. Also, I hope that you will subscribe and tell other people, and also, if you care to make a donation, that is really greatly appreciated, and the link is down below. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And remember, most of all, I love you.